Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Lawrence Welk Show, celebrating more than 50 years on television.
Good evening. In the news tonight, time is running out for an Ohio company to purchase the bankrupt Wvut Steel Corporation and prevent the loss of 70 jobs. And President Bush again is condemning the Iraqi violence that has taken at least 56 lives just today.
In sports, the second season for boys high school basketball teams gets underway tonight, and former Wvut Trailblazer Sean Marion had a standout night in the NBA.
Newscenter 22 is next. A bankrupt Wvut Steel Corporation may have a new owner, but much has to take place in a short period of time for that to become a reality. Coco Singh Construction of Fredericktown, Ohio, a one-time customer of Wvut Steel, wants to purchase the company. However, Wvut Steel CEO Bob Besser says a number of issues must be settled before March 1st. That's the deadline set by U.S. bankruptcy court for completing the deal. Those issues include getting Knox County to forgive 25% of the company's back taxes and settling matters with investors, creditors, and employees. The company closed in January. On Monday, Coco Singh invited them back to apply for their jobs. Bozer says if the March 1st deadline is not met, the property and equipment must be liquidated. If successful, he says work could almost begin immediately. He says that within 35 days of successfully closing the deal, around 50 employees could be back at work. Bosser says Coco Singh has negotiated a tentative 5-year deal with the Ironworkers Union. Under that agreement, employees would receive better pay and benefits than under the previous owner. Wvut Steel had a $3.5 million payroll last year. A delegation from Wvut is in Syracuse, New York today in an effort to attract a new business to the city. The name of the business is not being made public. Wvut's Mayor Terry Mooney, Knox County Development Corporation President Gary Gentry, an official from Wvut University, and a private sector representative left for Syracuse on Monday. The Wvut City Council is facing a March 18th deadline to approve new Knox County zoning and subdivision ordinances. If they are not amended and approved by that date, it will be assumed the city approves of them as written. Scott Brown is chairman of Council's Planning Committee. He says his committee will meet on March 9th to go over recommendations being prepared by the city engineer.
We're looking at like the landscape ordinance, looking to retain the Board of Zoning Appeals, which the county's ordinance does not do that. Probably look at a couple other things.
Council is expected to take final action on the ordinances at its meeting on March 13th, 5 days before the deadline. There's no doubt the city of Vincennes has a colorful history, and very soon elementary school students will be able to color that history themselves. The mayor's office took possession of 1,000 historic sites coloring books Friday. The books have pictures of the city's historic sites, including the George Rogers Clark Memorial, Red Skelton's boyhood home, and the Pantheon Theater. Mayor Terry Mooney's chief of staff Dan Wvut came up with the idea. He says it's an excellent opportunity to teach local history to elementary school students.
I think in this section of the country, 4th grade is the grade in which they actually study Indiana history in depth. But if they have a taste of it with a coloring book in the earlier grades, they'll be more apt to know about it and be interested in it once they do get into the 4th grade Indiana history.
Wvut says he hopes the coloring books will eventually be distributed out of Vincennes to help teach children and promote the city's historic sites. The coloring books were made possible by a $3,200 contribution from the Vincennes City Council. The books are illustrated by Wvut graphic artist Brad Rock and printed by Ewing Printing. Jurors are deliberating the fate of a former Indiana State Trooper accused of killing his wife and 2 children. During closing arguments yesterday, prosecutors argued that the case against David Cam hadn't changed despite an alleged accomplice surfing since his conviction. Hundreds packed the State House this morning for a rally designed to build momentum for Governor Daniels' major highway initiative. Jeers from opponents sometimes drowned out the governor and other speakers. Daniels and other proponents told the crowd that the legislation would help fund numerous highway and transportation projects and create tens of thousands of jobs. Hundreds of supporters cheered and applauded widely, but many shouted in opposition, saying the plan to lease the toll road to a private Australian-Spanish consortium for 75 years was selling a major state asset to companies that were sure to hire non-union laborers at low wages. State Representative Dave Crook says he'll stop trying to revive the debate over daylight savings time during his legislative session. The Washington Democrat was pushing for legislation that would have put issues such as daylight savings time and Indiana time zones to a statewide vote. But Governor Daniels and White House Speaker Brian Bosma are against reviving the issue. And State Senate President Pro Tem Robert Garton says the provisions would likely fail in the Senate. Crook says his efforts seem futile since he can't get the big three to go along with it. But he adds he'll try to revive the issue again next session if he's reelected. A new report says almost 1 in 5 Indiana mothers continue to smoke while they're pregnant, a rate nearly double the national average. The Indiana Youth Institute put out the report saying that nationally nearly 11% of pregnant women continue to smoke in 2003. Only 4 of Indiana's 92 counties fell below that rate. The report says smoking while pregnant increases many dangers, including a higher risk of miscarriages, low birth weight, and sudden infant death syndrome. Indianapolis media reports say a company that's known mostly in racing circles has won the naming rights to the new Colts stadium. The Colts and the company, Lucas Oil, had no immediate comment on the reports. Lucas Oil produces lubricants for auto racing. The official announcement is set for tomorrow. Still to come on Newscenter 22, the death toll continues to mount as a result of sectarian fighting in Iraq, and the city of New Orleans is holding Mardi Gras amid the wreckage left by Hurricane Katrina. Stay with us.
Coming up this week on 22 Magazine, Vincent's Mayor Terry Mooney stops by to talk about the state of the city. And Cynthia Ragle and Brad Musgrave discuss the TRIO programs at Vincennes University. They're designed to identify disadvantaged students and prepare them for success in college. TRIO includes 2 educational talent search programs and Upward Bound. The next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on Wvut.
Prosecutors have presented what may be a smoking gun at Saddam Hussein's trial. It's a document they say he signed that approved executing more than 140 Shiites after a 1980s assassination attempt. Saddam and some co-defendants also announced today they've ended their hunger strike. A number of casualties after a week of sectarian attacks in Iraq is climbing. Iraqi police say explosions after sundown at 2 Shiite targets have killed 15 people. That raises today's total dead to at least 66. Police officials say either a car bomb or a motor hit a mosque in a largely Shiite neighborhood, killing 14. Mortar fire at a Shiite shrine across the Tigris River killed 1 and wounded 10. The attacks were in apparent retaliation for an attack on a Sunni mosque before dawn. Earlier reports from the Iraqi cabinet suggest at least 394 people have died in attacks since the bombing of a famous Shiite shrine in Samarra a week ago. Hundreds have been wounded. Working to close the gap between Iraqi's shaky security forces and the people and to ensure safety, the Iraqi army has been deployed to the streets to protect mosques, now the target of sectarian attacks, and to main checkpoints. But in some areas, it's local militias who remain in control and offer a semblance of protection. And although the army's directive to keep the peace with the militias has maintained a semblance of calm, this truce may be impossible to maintain. Ara Damon has more.
These are defining moments for Iraqi Army Staff Colonel Mohammed Wasif and his men. Tensions are especially high right now. Iraqis' confidence that their security forces can keep them safe is shaky at best. It's up to the men in Colonel Wasif's brigade to provide security and prove themselves.
I think if we are doing our job in a proper way, we must work to close the gap between the Iraqi army and the people, because the people now, they see us without the American, and they like this.
Because they are local and they know what they're doing.
Let's go to...
The Iraqi army deployed all its men to the streets in an effort to establish order after Wednesday's attack on the Al-Askari mosque sparked violence between Iraqis across the country. They set up impromptu checkpoints, even using plastic chairs as roadblocks, screening traffic.
If there is more than one inside the vehicle...
Colonel Wasif takes no chances with suspicious vehicles. These 3 young men are carefully searched. We don't mind because it's making us safer, says Mohammed Jassim.
And you see, you can walk inside the streets. It's very safe.
Colonel Wasif says he has his patrol area in central Baghdad under control. But in other parts of town, militias are a law unto themselves, blatantly challenging the authority of Iraq's security forces. The Iraqi army says the militias cannot continue to exist, but for now is under orders not to confront them.
The order coming from my high level, from the MOD and division, to not to create, to be sure that there is no any problems create between the Iraqi army and the militia, because at the end it will be some big problem.
Colonel Wasit now has his men in position at the Sunni mosque to prevent another attack like the one on Wednesday. It's working for the time being. This day, Colonel Wasit's men control the streets of their neighborhood. But the question is, how long will the calm last? Arwa Damon, CNN, Baghdad.
The chief of the Defense Intelligence Agency says militants in Afghanistan now represent a greater threat than at any point since late 2001. Lieutenant General Michael Maples told Congress today that violence in Afghanistan grew 20% last year. President Bush says he hasn't changed his mind about letting a United Arab Emirates firm run the U.S. seaports. Bush says he still approves of the deal despite agreeing to another 45-day security review. Bush asks what kind of signal is sent by blocking port control by an Arab company but accepting a British company. The crowds are a little smaller for the first Mardi Gras since Hurricane Katrina, but in New Orleans is celebrating with usual beads and bizarre outfits. Some are paying an odd homage to the hurricane with costumes made of blue plastic tarps like those that cover damaged roofs. Mardi Gras may be a party worth throwing, but it's still bittersweet for many. It turned out to be a storm that shattered a Mardi Gras fantasy for 2 sisters. Dan Lothian has more on the women who were forced to leave the French Quarter after Katrina.
In New Orleans, it's anyone's guess who or what will march down the street in the middle of the day. Mardi Gras season or not.
Well, you just never know.
It's what sisters Anne and Laura Guccione have always loved about the city they were born and raised in.
I just can't see myself living anywhere else.
But ever since Katrina, the Gucciones, who own a mask-making shop, say everything feels off-key.
Passing by the school you went to growing up, and it's just not there anymore. The church is being closed, the grocery stores.
Even their little shop of fantasy has been displaced from its old French Quarter home.
When Katrina came, foot traffic dried up. It became impossible to afford the rent. So after 15 years in the French Quarter, the sisters closed up shop and moved everything into their home across town.
We just need to cook a little bit longer.
Laura says she cries just about every day.
It's like you get up and you just do what you have to do, and then you start thinking about it, and it's all around you. It's just the destruction. You know, people aren't able to come home.
A fragile state for 2 sisters who indulge in fantasies using glue, feathers.
Everybody likes feathers.
And other sparkling materials to make masks for Mardi Gras revelers.
This is kind of escape. I'll sit in here and I'll put on some music and I don't think about what's going on around me.
In a way, they're also helping others mask their own feelings or their true identities.
Then a lot of people will pick a mask that maybe is another side of their personality that you don't know existed or they didn't know existed before.
The sisters also worry about the next hurricane season, just around the corner.
I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, are we going to have to leave every time there's even the wind blows? And that's a big fear. And
For now, they'll celebrate with the crowds on St. Charles Avenue, like they have since they were kids. Only this year, Anne's costume will reflect very grown-up concerns.
I'm going to be Humpty Dumpty.
Why is that?
Because we're all broken sitting on a wall or waiting for a wall to be rebuilt. Thought it was appropriate.
Dan Lothian, CNN, New Orleans.
Several Supreme Court justices seem to think Anna Nicole Smith should get at least some of the money she's after. The court heard arguments today related to the former stripper's efforts to get a piece of her late husband's fortune. One justice called it quite a story. Good news for chocolate lovers. A Dutch study finds older men who eat about a third of a chocolate bar a day have lower blood pressure and reduced risk of death. Researchers say in the archives of internal medicine, the results don't prove chocolate causes the health benefits. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice has this evening's weather.
Tuesday on Frontline. From behind the battle lines in Iraq, the inside story of the insurgency, their strategy,
Al-Qaeda is the main beneficiary of this war.
their tactics,
They would bring in fighters, organize them into cells,
and their internal divisions. Frontline takes you inside the Iraqi insurgency. Tuesday at 9, only on PBS.
Well, Michael, there's spring-like temperatures outside. Can we expect these temperatures to stick around?
I think we can, Kristen. We can certainly see that these temperatures will last throughout most of the week, and also we're going to see mostly calm weather. As for today, though, just a gorgeous way to end out our February. And as we take a look outside our tower cam, we can see currently in downtown Vincennes, we do have sunny skies outside, although some haze starting to develop across the skies, and that's going to continue to increase into some thicker cloud cover for tonight. Currently 62 degrees here in Vincennes. Winds are south at 6 miles per hour. Humidity 41%. Barometric pressure just under 30 inches and rising. Temperatures around our viewing area very similar. Sunny skies all across the Wabash Valley. Over in Washington, 64 degrees. Lawrenceville, 61. Carlisle, 60 degrees. And our friends over in Huntingburg at 64 degrees. Now, temperatures nationally, we're part of this very warm band of temperatures across the southern part of the United States. 68 degrees for New Orleans today, a great way to end their Mardi Gras. We can see a weak cold front. It's kind of going through the upper parts of Indiana. Not too much change in temperature there. And if we go up to the northeast, though, the very northeast, we can see very cold temperatures, lower teens for portions of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Our weather conditions, though, as we look at the surface map, the focus continues to be out on the west coast. We have that low pressure system with a very active frontal boundary that's moving its way onto shore and on the east coast, or over towards the east. We can see lots of rain showers, lots of precipitation, or heavy amounts of accumulation for much of the west coast, upwards of 10 inches of rain for California. That's creating mudslide and flood conditions. Not good news for them. As we go out to the east coast, though, eastern half of the United States, we have high pressure still down in the southeast, creating very warm and clear skies for them today. We do have a frontal boundary system moving its way through our area. It's a very weak stationary front, though, not causing much change in temperature. It will bring some cloud cover with us for tomorrow, and also some slight chance for some patchy fog for tomorrow night or tonight. So as we take a look at our forecast for tonight, we can see cloudy skies continuing to develop, patchy fog in some areas, lower lying areas, low of 46 degrees. Tomorrow, clouds will continue, a 30% chance for some light rain, high of 66 degrees, though, very warm. Tomorrow night, cloudy skies continuing, low of 46, and your extended forecast, sunny skies will return for the end of the week. Thursday, up to 55 degrees. And for Saturday, we will have some rain showers, scattered showers for much in the forecast, high of 42 degrees, though. So, Kristen, not a bad week in store.
Thank you, Michael. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Amy Reef will have the latest in sports. Stay with us.
On Nova, the epic story of two Arctic journeys a half-century apart.
We were making our way in waters never sailed.
Two men, two different fates.
We don't know what it was that was killing them.
One unforgiving land.
This evidence is strongly suggestive of cannibalism.
May God protect us. The search for the Arctic Passage on Nova.
Alice's Cats rematch on tap. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Amy Reef. All 64 boys sectional sites have games tonight as attention turns to the fight for the state basketball championships. 4th-ranked Vincennes Lincoln faces Jasper in the Class 3A sectional at Washington tonight. The Alices edged the Wildcats during the regular season by 5 points. Jasper's on a 5-game winning streak entering the tournament, while the Alices had their 6-game winning streak snapped at Evansville North Friday night. Lincoln is hoping to have Craig Hines healthy for tonight's sectional tilt. The junior forward scorer was under the weather and scored only 4 points in the loss. Princeton plays Pike Central in the second contest. At the Class 2A sectional at Paoli, South Knox plays Mitchell in the sectional opener, while Paoli plays Linton in the nightcap. North Knox drew a first-round bye and plays Eastern Green on Friday. At the Class A Lagoti sectional, Vincennes Reveille faces the host Lions right after. The West Virginia Mountaineers' path through the Big East tournament just got a little easier. The 16th-ranked Mountaineers earned a first-round bye in the tournament by beating 8th-ranked Pittsburgh 67-62. It's West Virginia's 5th victory this season over a ranked team. Kevin Pittsnoggle bounced back from being held scoreless by Pitt 2 weeks ago and scored 26 in his final home game for West Virginia. In the other top 25 games, 5th-ranked Gonzaga won its 38th straight home game, but just barely. The Bulldogs beat upset-minded San Francisco 75-72 on a three-pointer with 1 second left. Adam Morrison, the nation's leading scorer, scored 34. It's the 13th time he's scored at least 30. 10th-ranked Illinois is on the road tonight as they continue their quest to win a 3rd straight Big Ten regular season title. The Illini takes on Minnesota this evening in the first of 2 games away from home to wrap up the regular season. They'll take on 25th-ranked Michigan State on Saturday. Illinois hasn't been doing very well outside Assembly Hall. They've lost 4 of their last 6 conference games on the road. Going into tonight's game, the Illini are 9-5 in a Big Ten play, which leaves them in a 3-way tie with Iowa and Wisconsin. Washington State men's basketball coach Dick Bennett has announced his retirement. He will be succeeded by his son, associate coach Tony Bennett. The 62-year-old Bennett is 36-46 in 3 years at the school, including an 11-14 mark this season. He's .490 and .303 in his college career, which will conclude at the end of the season. Former Vincennes University standout Sean Marion had 30 points and 18 rebounds to help the Phoenix Suns win their 7th straight 111-94 over Houston. Marion has scored at least 30 in all 3 games since the All-Star break. Steve Nash added 23 points and 10 assists. Yao Ming led the Rockets with 27 points and 18 rebounds. It was the Suns' first game since learning that President and General Manager Brian Colangelo has resigned and is expected to join the Toronto Raptors as President and General Manager Tuesday. Home or away, it makes no difference. The Detroit Pistons are simply better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Pistons completed a home-and-home sweep of the Cavs by posting an 84-72 win at Cleveland. That comes a day after the Pistons scored another 12-point win over Cleveland at the Palace at Auburn Hills. Rasheed Wallace scored 24 points and Richard Hamilton added 22. LeBron James led all scorers with 26 for the Cavs. Just 3 games are on today's NBA schedule, including the New Orleans Hornets visiting the Seattle Supersonics. The Hornets have the 5th best record in the Western Conference at 31-25, following back-to-back victories. Chicago hosts Minnesota, and the Los Angeles Lakers entertain Orlando in the other games. The NBA is reminding 2 Minnesota Timberwolves that they should try to keep the basketball on the court, not the stands. Timberwolves forward Kevin Garnett has been fined $5,000 by the NBA for throwing a basketball into the stands in a win over Memphis Sunday. Garnett accidentally hit a fan when he tossed the ball away in the 3rd quarter. T-Wolves guard Ricky Davis was also fined $5,000 by the league for kicking a basketball into the stands in a loss to Denver Friday. Jay Cutler has gone a long way since he was playing at Southern Indiana's Heritage Hills High School. His workouts during the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis have some even considering the Vanderbilt quarterback as one of the top 3 QB picks in the upcoming draft. Free agent Roger Clemens threw a total of 66 pitches to Houston Astros minor leaguers in preparation for the World Baseball Classic. He says he's no closer to deciding his future beyond the event. Clemens says he's not sure of whether he'll pitch this season. He says he's not even going to mention the word retirement, saying, "I've been trying to do that for a couple of years now, and it's not working." For the first time in the history of Baseball Hall of Fame, a woman will be inducted this summer. Former team owner Effa Manley is among 17 people from the Negro Leagues and pre-Negro Leagues chosen by a special committee. Manley and her husband purchased the Newark Eagles in 1936 and won the Negro World Series 10 years later. Buck O'Neill and Minnie Minoso were not elected by the 12-person panel. They were the only living members among the 39 candidates on the ballot. And Kristen, that's a look at sports.
Thank you, Amy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, a small dog turns out to be big on crime fighting. Stay with us.
What kind of python are you?
Come on, you worm!
Oh no! If you're a medical professional...
My brain hurts! It'll have to come out!
Outstanding in your field...
Also a writer of humor and...
and you enjoy fish slapping... then you may be a John Cleese. Find out on Monty Python's Personal Best.
The newest recruit at a northeastern Ohio Sheriff's Department is causing quite a buzz. What she lacks in brute strength, she more than makes up for in her ability to get next to people. Michael O'Mara reports.
For the last 7 years, there's been one top dog in the Geauga County Sheriff's Department. Brutus, the big German Shepherd, has been the go-to canine, but that's about to change. Here comes Midge, 2 pounds of raw recruit police power. A 3-month-old miniature Chihuahua with a rat terrier mixed in, who has one major talent right now.
Cute. She is cute. She's little. She's very friendly. She likes people a lot.
Midge, in her little uniform, is already patrolling the hallways at the county jail, and the sheriff has plans to train her as the smallest drug dog in the state of Ohio.
I had this idea that, and I've toyed with for a few years, that why couldn't a small dog be used just as well?
She watches every time somebody walks in the room. She, her ears perk up. She kind of watches who's coming in.
So far, Brutus, who obviously has a sense of humor, has taken to the new tiny trainee, and the department's canine trainer thinks Midge has a bright future.
I know from my work that kids and dogs get to people's hearts.
Even on her tiptoes, Midge is only 2 feet high. Not going to do much work with the SWAT team.
No, you won't.
She's not going to strike fear in a whole lot of folks.
That's okay.
That's not her job.
Okay, so the only time Midge is going to take somebody down is if they're already lying down, but the cuteness factor is really, really high. In Geauga County, no tickling. Jeez. I'm Mike O'Mara with Midge, the sheriff's dog. Good girl. Jeez.
And that's all for this evening. For Michael Nice and Amy Reef, I'm Kristen Miller. Good night.